Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. There are many ways to support the show. You can share the show with others and rate and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. You can check out and sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store, excuse me, and find shirts, all kinds of different kinds of shirts, and some other items there with designs made by friends of the show. And support is never expected but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Also, please follow our friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel, and when she is able to, joins me on this show on Saturdays. And also Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows as well as my own 24/7 online for free. So, um, I believe we're all set to just keep on going here with all these true stories. And I've already made announcements I needed to for now, so let me get back to the file here. Thank you all for being here and listening in. And here we go. This next one says, so I've been missing a few shirts that just disappear out of the blue. Recently, I was looking for a shirt that has a very distinct graphic and couldn't find it. A week passed by, and I was leaving my room when a shirt caught my attention. It was the shirt I was looking for, located at a place where I looked constantly. I live alone, not sure what to think. It's something that's not driving me crazy, but it's very weird. And that's where that one ends. It's a short one, but here you have objects that appear to be vanishing and in some cases reappearing. Um, and there's so many accounts of this. I share them whenever I find them, and it's sure it's kind of rare, but not impossible. But it's random items, household items, um, just vanish, and sometimes they appear again, and other times they don't. How that works, I don't know. I wonder um, about just things vanishing due to forces or I don't know, energies or parts of different sort of what do you call them? I don't know, just things that happen within the universe, in space and time, the mechanics of everything, where things just do vanish. They are in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and they go missing. And because I always wonder with that, because in some cases it doesn't seem like there's always a um a clear intent. They just vanish and reappear. Other times, other cases, I think there can be it can seem like there's some intelligence there that is either interested in these items or in darker cases trying to mess with people. But I don't think that's always the case. So, um, so yeah, I don't know. Chef Pete in the chat says that there says I'm not super religious, but a prayer to Saint Anthony uh, usually brings it back. Yeah, could be. Uh, I think it goes to a different plane or dimension. Yeah, that's what I always wonder about is there intelligence behind all these things or not? And I don't think there's intelligence behind every single little vanishing or reappearing item out there. So, but I think it's important to share these accounts because you never know when we might discover a pattern or something that maybe might provide some kind of information at some point, possibly or not. Um, but anyway, moving on to this next one here. This one says, last night I woke up at 3 a.m. as I usually do, insomnia, and as I looked towards the curtains in my room, I saw a small orb. It had the same coloring as ball lightning, blue light, but didn't emit any light, and it was probably only a centimeter in diameter. It was quite bright, and it disappeared as quickly as it appeared. It didn't move from that spot. It honestly just looked like a broken pixel on a screen that immediately fixed itself. I want to call it ball lightning, but it really only looked like ball lightning. It didn't act like it, nor did it light up its surroundings, which is why I'm considering maybe I saw an orb. I'm not much of a believer in orbs, but until I can find a reasonable explanation, I'm going to call it an orb. It didn't feel threatening or angry or anything bad. I went back to sleep after seeing it, and that's where that one ends. And I could be mistaken, but I thought I'd heard that ball lightning was supposed to be white, but maybe not. I also feel like I've heard of people describing ball lightning as being different colors. Um, but it sounds more like an orb, like they said there, because it didn't move much. Um, then again, orbs can move too, so it's really, as usual, labeling all this is difficult. I think the safest thing to say is they saw a light that was there and then vanished. Um, and I like that they pointed out they didn't feel anything negative from it. It was just there and then it wasn't there. So I do wonder if in that case they sensed it before they woke up and that's what caused them to wake up. Uh, or it could have also just been the insomnia. That's not a fun thing to deal with. Um, but yeah, so I think that's a neat one. I think it's fascinating when we try to figure these things out and assign names to them as to what we feel like it fits. And I'm not that's not a to argue with or to diminish what the person posted there at all, or their thoughts on what it was. I'm just saying I think it's fascinating when we if you look through enough reports of experiences, people will use different names, but then if you look at enough of them, sometimes they're the same experience, and people would just be going with names they've found or researched or been told this is what this is, um, and so that's why I like to focus a lot more on just the experience, more so than a name of what it was, because I don't know that we're ever going to know all that. But so yeah, and I do like the ones that are about lights like that because I've seen some over the years, and some outside again in the sky, and then a couple here and there in my apartment. So, but moving on to the next one here. This one says, I don't really believe in ghosts, but something happened yesterday that I can't shake off. Around 3 a.m., and I promise this is a different account here, but this is just a common time for activity and weird things to happen. I woke up because I heard what sounded like someone walking around my living room. Slow, just 2 or 3 steps. I figured it was my cat, but when I got up to check, she was asleep at the foot of my bed. I I stood in the hallway for a minute, waiting to hear it again. And suddenly, the light switch in the living room clicked on by itself. not flickered, fully clicked on, switched on. I watched it happen. There's no loose wiring. I had it checked when I moved in last month, and there was no draft or movement anywhere. I barely slept after that. I know this could be something electrical or explainable, but has anyone actually seen a light switch flip on its own? Is that even possible? Just looking for rational explanations before I freak myself out. And that's a good thing to do. Um, I've heard of one other case in recent shows I shared where someone was seeing light outside, and then it faded, and then inside the house, um, inside the house, a light actually turned on, and the switch was on and everything. So I don't know. It seems like it's possible. If you think of all the things that we probably all heard about ghosts or spirits or apparitions doing, opening doors, um, even making footsteps. I mean, that you would think that would take weight, but even putting that aside, moving objects around, I don't think it's too far out there as far as the paranormal goes for someone to be able to manipulate a light switch. Um, so I'm not sure, but that's not the first time I've heard of not just the lights in a place flickering or turning on without the switch moving, but it's more a case of the actual switch was affected somehow, and to turn on the light. So now these are I hadn't heard of this before directly, the switches being activated, um, but then again, that's 2 times now I've found accounts about that happening, and I'm sure over time I'll find more. So and yeah, looking at the chat here, Mike says that's interesting, Pete. Prayers going to different planes. I think that's possible. Energy. I mean, it is thoughts attached to words, attached to ideas that are being sent somewhere. Um, so, and Chef Pete says, I haven't seen a switch move, but wow, that would take some energy. Yes, it would. But like I said, if you think of doors being pushed, especially in some rare cases where they're doors that are heavy or are not the best in the best shape in places. I've heard of doors moving around. Uh, I mean, even lights like light fixtures moving, um, closet doors opening and closing. In some cases like that, I mean, yes, it can happen with air movement, but other times there is no air movement, and people have checked into that and found nothing. So it's something, but I don't know. I can't tell you how it's done. I can just tell you I've heard of objects being moved that are much bigger than a light switch. So how that works, I don't know. But yeah, that. Given other things I've heard of being moved around, like furniture and things like that, a light switch to me, um, that's actually on the smaller side of things overall. I mean, still startling, still surprising, but just in terms of the amount of physical force. So, looking at here, let me see here the chat. Uh, Chef Pete says the old Biltmore in Providence, which is now a graduate hotel, is definitely haunted. I believe a lot of hotels are haunted, and it's just a matter of what ones decide to go with that, to acknowledge that, and which ones don't. But there's yeah, I've heard of and read about so many hotels being having paranormal activity in and around them. So I believe that. I've talked about this before. I think there are certain types of places that just lend themselves to activity, to um, to all that, to the paranormal being present. Uh, Hotels, medical facilities, hospitals, uh, jails, prisons, uh, all those kinds of places. And of course, not the same thing, but related in a way. When I say medical facilities, that also includes mental health medical facilities. All these places where you have people that are coming and going, uh, and some are coming and going, they're in and out within a short period of time. Others, in some of those more medical situations, they're there for possibly years. So, Chef Pete says, my wife and I stayed there for a wedding and almost checked out early. I think you may have, maybe unless that's a different one. I think you may have told me about it during that chat one night. But anyway, so yeah, I think hotels are definitely a type of location that is uh, commonly haunted. Even though, again, the word haunted to me, uh, so many people think of that as a negative thing. But at this point, um, as in it being a negative, mostly negative experience, but I don't associate that with that directly at this point. It's a short form in a way, say there's paranormal activity there. But anyway, let's get at least a couple more in here before we wrap this up here, or at least one. Not that I don't enjoy chatting with everyone. I love all the ideas and all the chat and everything. So thank you all for being here. Let's see. Okay, so looking at this next one here, it says, my stepdad works at a museum in the Netherlands as a security guard and has had some pretty strange stories so far. I thought I'd share for whoever's interested. There's an elevator that's only for private use. It leads to the boiler room and some other halls with closets and archives. There's a maintenance room that's completely dark all the time, pitch black. The light switch is around a corner. During the night, the elevator suddenly moves to the floor that the maintenance room is on and stops there. The doors open and stay open for around 2 to 5 minutes before closing again. Then the elevator goes back up, and a few hours later it happens again. At the 1800s exhibit, there's two sort of glass bowls. He was working there a few weeks ago, and multiple people came up to him saying, the glass over there is vibrating. He shrugged it off, but after the third person came up to him, he checked it out, and one of the two glass bowls was shaking and vibrating. Then there's my favorite because he has it on video. At the 1700s exhibit, they put a bunch of furniture and old household items on display, including an old rattle. It has 4 bells and is made from a sort of metal. It's in a glass display case, completely sealed off from any airflows. One of the bells on the rattle kept swinging left to right, and then it stopped again. But when he got his colleagues and started talking about it, the bell started swinging again. The more they talked, the faster it swung. I have some more, but don't want to make this post too long. Just thought I'd share. And that's where that one ends, and that's fascinating because you have a place, and this is another type of location that I think is probably quite often has a paranormal activity attached to it because of it's constantly taking in and in some cases sending out, but I mean mostly just taking in, I think, items that have been used in the past. And um, obviously, you have some items in this particular museum that this writer's father works in that have some energy attached to them. Stepdad there we go. Not father. Well, I mean, not same thing exactly. Still, their stepdad has had some experiences, and these experiences, at least with the items, have been had by other people around him, and at the same time, and before and after. The elevator is also fascinating to me because of how often I've found accounts of. I did a whole show on elevator experiences a couple of years ago, I believe, and could probably do another one at some point. And to where in these hotels and these museums and sometimes just apartment buildings, but often hotels, elevators seem to have a mind of their own. Now, is it a sort of a consciousness, a ghost or a spirit that is manipulating the elevator? Is it multiple? Is it none? But then how is that happening? Can residual energy fields, sounds, and apparitions, can they have some physical effect on solid objects in rare cases and cause those elevators to move up and down? Again, if whether you're talking about manifesting just enough to press a button or somehow affecting the circuitry, the electronics, the wiring of the elevator to get it to move around. Because as I've talked about before, I think over time, and we've seen this in all the different posts I've shared, true stories I've shared in the show before, more and more electronics are being affected, being used to communicate in some cases. And in many cases, it seems like it's it's loved ones, it's people that are close that are trying to send a sign like that they're okay to their loved ones. Other cases, it seems like it's random things, uh, and it's something that's been happening, and it involves now for years. It's been elevators, it's been radios, it's been telephones. Now we're getting into a time where every so often I'll find a post about a smart speaker or a cell phone or a computer, a PC that does things on its own that have significance in what they do or they play or the messages they show to the individual, um, to where it doesn't make sense for it to just be, let's say, some random hacker putting up this song or that video or that. How would they know that has so huge connection to the person? And there's usually a feeling involved with it too when that happens. Sense of a presence, especially of the loved one. Um, so anyway, I know I kind of got way off what the actual account there was, but I think it's all connected, and I think over time, as we get to the point where people from the last, let's say, 10 years or so, who've been around, who've really gotten used to or become really well acquainted with electronics and all those things, as more people just in the course of a natural life, they pass away, we're going to see more and more sophisticated technology being manipulated by unseen forces and consciousnesses or spirits or souls, however you want to call them. So that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.